Okay, eating the tithe, this weird thing in the beautiful, like, Israel community. I mean, I always thought all the stuff in the Bible was crazy, but then when I realized, like, there's a friend that did all this stuff. It's a friend that made all these guidelines. It's like a really cool friend, a lifeguard that's trying to protect our crazy lives from actual demonic hell, darkness, and death. He's trying to protect us from death, from destroying ourselves. And that's their main mindset of the dark spirits is to destroy ourselves. So in the I started studying Leviticus and like the rules for the Israelites, and I started looking for the love in Leviticus. Like there's all these rules, can't do this, must do that, must do this. I tried to find the love in every one. Like if a man lies with a woman and she is not promised to another man, they should be married, which is God saying, I can put a bubble of love around two people after they've first made out so that they don't have to know anybody else and they just know they're one person, which is really cool. It's a cool idea. So I started writing inside. I haven't even written out this teaching yet. It's the coolest teaching of like taking everything in Leviticus and showing like a loving friend, helping you as a community and a family follow these rules so that you just have more peaceable lives. And even if a person kills another person, you put them to sleep because their attitude of killing people might kind of trickle down into other people. They might be an influence. And if you put them to sleep, they're not going to influence your family. Just because they're dying doesn't mean their life is completely over, because there's going to be an evaluation of everybody. A person who murdered somebody on the final day, when God evaluates, he's going to be like, oh, you had a whole bunch of angry, slanderous people always around you. And in that anger and slander, your heart became violent and you killed somebody, but you did a whole lot better than this person who had kind people around them and they murdered a person. So you are okay. I receive you, to the heavenly realm because you were working so hard and you were in such a bad circumstance. But this person who had nice people, etc., in their selfishness, they killed somebody, and I am putting them away from me forever, says God. So there's going to be like, we don't actually die. Our souls continue to live, and then there's an evaluation. God's going to judge us for our circumstances, right? So he's going to say, okay, you were set in these circumstances, which are really bad, and you did so good in this area, and in that area, you helped these people, and you did this, and you did that. Hi, I welcome you. Come on, let's party in eternity. And that's the picture. So if a person, the capital punishment of the Israelite tribe is only putting somebody to sleep. And that's why Jesus, when he's going around and somebody dies, he's like, they're not dead, they're just sleeping. Don't grieve, because it's God's final evaluation that none of us can actually see. I mean, while he's alive, he's saying, I don't even know God's full evaluation. I don't know the times coming up. That's for the highest one to reveal. I don't know the times and the seasons, and so I can't even tell them to you. He's telling his followers, I wish I could tell you when everything's going to get fixed and everything's going to change, but it's a secret, and God likes to keep things secret. He likes to reveal things a little bit at a time. And so I just wanted to talk about eating the tithe with back in the former covenant, you had prayer people and you had singers and musicians and you had gatekeepers. Those people are nonstop serving the tribe, and they're doing a certain kind of work, and they're not even allowed to have bank accounts and possessions and stuff. People from the tribe are supposed to feed them and keep them working on their job. They're not allowed to think about making money, balancing accounts, like doing all kinds of fancy stuff. And the bottom line is food. When you run out of food, you turn into a beggar. Okay? So the cool thing was, there were certain times when people would bring food together, and with the priests and the singers and the gatekeepers, the whole community would eat together in God's presence. It was a curious time of actually eating with literally God at the table. And so a tithe is actually, if you're an ordinary citizen when you have a harvest of like wonderful corn or wheat or grapes, you take 10% of that and you put it into the storeroom for the prayer people, the singers and musicians, and the gatekeepers who are working around the clock to just kind of keep everybody's minds and hearts protected from the darkness. And that's a tough job. That's a crazy tough job. So when you have harvest, you take your first fruits and you put it in the storehouse of the tithe. And a tithe is actually food that everybody eats together in the presence of God. And so the concept of eating the tithe is based on food, not on money. It is not money, it's food. It's literally eating together with good cheer with God in our presence, who's our friend, right? And so there's a place where it says if you have to travel to another place and you don't have enough food, bring money with you so you can buy food and eat the tithe together. So tithe is always food, but money can be used to give a supply of food. Okay? So when you go into churches, they talk about tithing, tithing, tithing. Okay? And tithing is your 10%. You take 10% of your money and you give it to the prayer people, the singers and musicians, and the gatekeepers, the ones that are constantly circulating to keep good cheer and a spirit of loving kindness and peace in the family, which is a job, it's a work. So when you had that feeling of you wanted to contribute to the Alfred C. Lintner Foundation, that is your inner motivation to tithe, to actually make sure that the work of the prayer people and the singers and the gatekeepers is supplied so that in some way we're all eating together.
Right.
And I wanted to give you that image so that your mind is removed from the money aspect and the idea of us being people eating together in God's presence is actually the manifestation of your heart. It's not the money, it's actually the good cheer of us being together and being supplied by God because of our harvest. When we sit here and we eat the grapes and we drink the wine and we eat the bread and all the other good things, it's because God really supplied us. He did supply us. And that's so beautiful. And there's an agreement that we should all eat equally together, like until we're full and we're satisfied. So by tithing, you're making sure that the prayer people and the singers and musicians and the gatekeepers, the greeters, the ones that just travel around and say hi to people all the time, happy Monday, happy Tuesday, that those kinds of people are supplied just as much as the people who have the fields and have the income and the profits and all of the, the harvest, because those people are not allowed to work the harvest because they have to keep singing and praying and greeting people. Isn't that cool? It's so beautiful. And I've never described this like this to anybody ever together. I've known it inside, but it's the first time that I've spoken it out. In Jesus' name, this is a really cool moment.